Hi there! You probably clicked on this video because you want to learn how to write a crochet pattern. Maybe it's your first pattern, maybe you just want to get better at what you're doing, but you're on the right spot right here. In this video I want to show you my full process of how I design patterns from start to the finished stylized pattern when it is ready to be put out to the world and on Etsy. My name is Janina and I've designed over 100 patterns that I sell on Etsy or they are for free on my Patreon, and I really love what I'm doing and I feel like I have kind of an expertise in this field now, so I want to share my knowledge with you and my process. So I quickly wanted to go over the points of the process itself, and then I want to dive into those points a little bit deeper with some tips and tricks of mine. For me, the process of pattern designing is first to feel inspired, then getting ideas or an idea. Then I will sketch out the idea on an illustration or just a simple sketch. Then I will be color swatching and choosing the yarn I will be using for the project. After that, I will be brainstorming my stitches beforehand, before I then start crocheting the plushie. By crocheting the plushie, I will write everything down and take photos of everything I am doing. And when all of that is done, I can create my stylized pattern, which then is ready to be put out into the world. An optional last step can be to recrochet your own stylized finished pattern to be like your first pattern tester yourself. So for the first point, feeling inspired, I first wanted to talk about what being inspired means for me, because inspiration for me is like a feeling that I have or that I get on a random point of time, watching somebody else that motivates me, being on social media or being in the nature, seeing anything that really inspires me. And that feeling is this feeling of excitement that you want to create something. Sometimes it's like a feeling that you can't get into your hand, you just don't really know what it is about, you're just super excited. That is inspiration for me. And I feel like it's easier to design a pattern when you feel this feeling and if you're excited about what you're about to do and create. The second point, where to get an idea, is a question that I get a lot. If you're feeling inspired already, I feel like it's way easier to get ideas. When you feel inspired, go into the nature, have a look around, try to see everything with an artist's eye. For example, look onto the tree. I'm just seeing a tree outside there on the window behind the camera where there are apples hanging, and maybe I can come up with the idea of something that includes an apple. Try to see something in everything you see, and of course it's not only nature, you can find ideas on social media, of course, like Instagram and Pinterest, or YouTube. Maybe you like certain characters that you would like to recreate. If you're recreating characters though, make sure to get the permission of the copyright holder. Let's say I am creating a Junimo pattern for Stardew Valley, and it's the Junimo, which is a copyrighted character. I would need the permission of Concerned Ape or the studios who are making Stardew Valley. So make sure if you're getting inspired by something like that, or by Pokemon or Animal Crossing or anything like that, get the permission from Nintendo, let's say. But yeah, the tip for this is really have an extra open eye. Ideas will come to you from everywhere, I promise. I have a list of ideas that is as long as the Chinese wall, I feel like. But what to do if you have an idea and you just have the words in your mind but you just cannot visualize it? My tip for that is sketching out your idea. So I, for myself, do it in various ways. I sometimes really make a elevated illustration. Well, in my opinion, it's elevated. But sometimes when I'm just on a run, I will just make with my fingers some notes on my note app on the iPhone, which just really is for helping me visualize my idea, because the thing behind this is to see the proportions, to see if the accessories you're thinking about, if like everything goes well together. This is why I'm making a sketch most of the time before starting crocheting. If you then have the sketch, you can start color swatching or like yarn picking. I will go through my yarn stash and I will have in mind if I want the plushie maybe to be fluffy, or to be with blanket yarn, or to be with usual chenille yarn, velvet yarn, like the consistency of the yarn. And then I will decide for the colors as well, and I will maybe swatch them in my sketch already, or I will just hold the skeins and have a look on what I find is cute. If I have that done, I will also brainstorm some stitches before starting crocheting. So I'll have a look on my sketch and I will have a look on the different parts of my plushie, and will decide beforehand on like what parts I could do what. Like for example, I am pointing an arrow at like the arms and saying, okay, I want to do them with bobble stitches, I want to make the ear nose sew, and I want to do it like this and that. And this can be super rough, but I feel like it's helping me a lot when crocheting, that I have like already an idea in mind. And for example, if I know that I want the ears to be nose sewn, maybe for them to be crocheted in later into the pattern, I know that I have to do them beforehand, so I start with the ears, you know what I mean? So this is something that helps me a lot also, to think about the pattern beforehand a little bit. And then it's about to start crocheting, and there are actually, I feel like, 2 attempts. Some people write the pattern beforehand and then they crochet the piece and adjust the writing, like the written pattern then. But for me, this is not the way I'm going to do it. I am always going to do or like to start crocheting first, and I will just start to crochet the piece, and I will just try to bring my sketch to life. I will try to match my forms. I will have in mind, like if you have made like some pattern tests and you know, or like you crocheted for some time now, you will know, or yeah, like you will get a feeling for what to do in order to get which form. So this is what I will do then. I will start to crochet and trying to get my sketch to life. If I see throughout the part of crocheting that something doesn't fit the sketch that I was making, or like the proportions, I will just frog everything again, because crocheting is super forgiving, and I just will start over again from the point where I made like the mistake that like should look differently. And yeah, I just will crochet it until I have my sketch finished as a plushie and I'm fully satisfied with it. While crocheting, you want to write down everything that you do. This can be either done by your handwriting, just messy on just some notes, or you can of course do digital on like your note of your iPhone, or you can of course already try to make it in the format that you are using for text in your pattern if you already have written patterns, or you can just work it into your stylized pattern directly. I for myself use like the middle part that I just said. I try to most of the time write my text already like I would in the stylized pattern, so that I later don't have to type everything down again, but just have to copy the text that I perfectly written while crocheting already. But to be honest, I switch up those methods as well, because sometimes I'm just not feeling like writing down everything perfectly already while crocheting, and then I will just make messy hand notes and will write that down later. Also, simultaneously, while crocheting and writing down everything you do, you need to take photos of everything you make. Because there might be steps in your pattern that require like a photo to explain. Well, not require, but they just make the pattern easier if you have a photo that shows the step that you think might need some extra explanation. So for me, I'm doing it like from my gut feeling. I'm not photographing like every single piece of the pattern. Then I could do a video tutorial also. But when I come across something where I'm like, okay, this could cause confusion in like what I'm writing down at the moment, I will take a photo and we'll have it later when I will make in my stylized pattern. all of that is done and you have crocheted like your little new creation, you can start creating your stylized pattern. For this you can use different tools to create. I've seen patterns only being written in a Word document, like very plain, just like very effectively. But you can also use tools like Canva. I personally don't like Canva to use for patterns. I personally use Procreate. This is a tool that is used by mostly illustrators, I think, and I've bought it. Well, it's just like 7 to 10 euros, I think, that you have to pay once. I bought it when I started learning illustrating on Skillshare, and since then I love the platform. And when I started to design patterns, for me it was clear that I just will use Procreate, because for me the pattern designing, or like the stylized pattern creation, is just the same as illustrating, but a little bit more on like the documenting of what you're doing part. I feel like you just need to figure out what you like the most. I feel like on Canva it's a bit more, you can maybe have like template already that you can just adjust for you. If you're a bit more on the creative side and you like to make something from scratch, then you can use Procreate. Like I really had like a blank space before I started to make a template for me on Procreate. If you want a separate video on how I created a template for my patterns on Procreate step by step, just let me know in the comments, and maybe just like this video so that I know if we hit like 1,000 likes that we really want that video, then I will be glad to make in one for you. Yeah, you have the maybe template on like Procreate or like Canva, and if you have that, you will just create the stylized pattern by typing in your text or copying it in if you've already written it down the way you want it to be at the end. And if you have the text, you also will be including all the pictures you took, describing what you're doing, and like really writing the pattern. Make sure in this step that you cover everything. Every single little thing you did while crocheting is stated in a text or image form, and that everything lays out nicely and makes sense for the reader. To make sure that this is the case, you can, as an optional step, especially when you're just starting out writing patterns, I feel like you can, when your stylized pattern is done, just recreate your piece again. I'm doing this sometimes. I will insert some pictures of when I did it in different colors. You can just try it out again. You will see if you did something that just isn't natural while crocheting, and then you can just instantly correct it. And if all of that is done, you are good to go. You can start making like a pattern test if you want to on Instagram or anywhere. So you guys, those are all of my tips and tricks on the process of pattern designing. If you want to know more about pattern designing, please let me know in the comments the questions that you would like to have answered, or like the topics that you like to have covered. I will gladly do more videos like this if you want to, because I feel like I'm just scratching on the tip of the iceberg here with this video. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to give it a like. It really helps me out. And if you enjoyed watching, also subscribe to my channel. I'm doing weekly vlogs and sometimes other crochet videos like this. Also, feel free to check out my Patreon if you're a fan of what I'm doing and want to follow my crochet and pattern designing journey, as well as getting a lot of free patterns. You can check out my Patreon. I will link it down below. And yes, other than that, thank you so much for watching. I really hope to see you in my next video. Bye!